You should have never let girls in the Boy Scouts. Who wants to be king? Today I saw something that was both funny and sad at the same time. The first biological male won a pageant that was put on by the Miss America Foundation. I think it was in a town or a place called Greater Derry. Now, before I go into this, I want to make it abundantly clear that I'm not any kind of phobic or anti or any of these things. I'm just speaking what I feel is to be the truth. My own personal feelings about that are really inconsequential when I'm looking at the greater effect that these things are having on our society and our future generations. So now, when I look at this situation, this competition was for a Miss whatever the town pageant, and historically this goes to the most well-rounded woman in the competition. It's a female competition, and it was for a girl. Very clear outline of who the contestants were to be, and there was a scholarship to be given. And just like the transformers who are entering into the female athletic spaces, they're going to take the future away from these girls. Now, for these young girls, I feel sorry for them. Not just the fact that a boy is taking what they worked so hard. In this case, I mean, a beauty pageant is a beauty pageant, so the genetic gift of being born beautiful helps a lot. But these girls put their heart and soul in this. This is their passion, and then they get beat not only by a biological male, but one that looks like a dude that just decided to become a girl to enter this pageant. It'd be one thing if this person was attractive on any level, but that's abundantly not so. And these poor girls have to stand on the stage and act like they support this and they're okay, and you know, all of this delusional bullshit, and it's unfair to them. But I blame their parents. I blame their parents and their grandparents and perhaps even their great-grandparents and all the men that have stood by and allowed this to take hold and to take place. Now, with that being said, I want to play devil's advocate here, and I want to say that these young girls who really didn't have much to say in the decisions that led up to this, they're paying the price, and that's unfortunate. But all things have unintended consequences, and when you consider the whole body of work here, what we're seeing is the chickens coming home to roost, and a whole population getting exactly what their predecessors asked for. Now, what am I talking about, you might ask? Well, I specifically remember a couple of years back, maybe a couple of decades ago, that a woman golf player decided that it was her right to invade male spaces and force her way into a male tournament. And all the femmes clapped their sail arms and acted like this was a big victory, even though she got her ass handed to her, and proved the historically known fact that men dominate women when it comes to physicality in sport. Some sort of way this was a victory. And then not too long ago, less than a decade ago, somebody decided to do this. They decided that Girl Scouts weren't enough, and they allowed their little girls to invade the Boy Scouts and pretty much did away with that organization. It's no longer what it once was. Now, aside from all the weirdos and pedos that infested that, Boy Scouts used to be something, a place where young boys could go learn skills that are all but forgotten. And for whatever reason, these women believed that it was their girls' right to invade and disrupt this whole organization that for over 100 years had served the youth and helped them give them a transition from teaching them how to bake cookies at home with mom to learning how to tie knots, make shelter, make a fire, make traps, do the things that young men should know how to do. So when I look at this this new trend of these confused young men, these mentally disturbed young men, and some of them are probably just trolling. Some of them are probably just seeing that that's the easier route rather than competing against males. When you see this happening, it's almost laughable to see the shock, the disappointment, and all of the frustration that comes from the females when they didn't show that same energy when these women and little girls decided to infiltrate and take over and ruin men's spaces. Now, granted, the PGA Tour or whatever it's called didn't get ruined, but they made a very distinct point to plant their stupid flag on that course during a men's tournament, proving absolutely nothing. Then they had the ability to whine and cry enough to make men bend the knee and allow this. Now, with that being said, my point here is always to try to educate the young men and boys who listen to what I have to say and moving forward in our fucked up world. What I want to say is this: it's beyond time for us to stop pretending and stop acquiescing to all of this delusional woke bullshit. The fathers that are still involved in their children's lives, although it's going to be hard, you need to pull your kids out of these sporting and in these events when they allow biological males to invade the space. You need to do what your grandfather and your fathers didn't do when these women were invading the male spaces. Right now, they are working overtime to make little boys into little girls and to do away with the voice of strong men. They're trying to make it sound like men who are telling young boys to pull their balls out of their stomach and straighten up their spine are saying something wrong. But the real wrong, the real evil that's being done is men and boys standing by and allowing this, applauding this, and even celebrating and supporting this bullshit. Because none of this should be happening. And the only time a man sits back and enjoys watching another man beat up on a little girl or a woman is when he's a pussified little coward. And that's the country that we have. There's too many weak people having children and ruining these kids. These people believe that it's their right to ruin their kids so they can be part of some club. And these fathers and mothers that are allowing their children to compete when there's a biological male in the locker room or on the court, all you're doing is giving these people a stage. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. It may even require your children's future to be martyred in order to change it. But if and when the parents of the kids that aren't mentally messed up, when those parents say, you know what, we're not doing this, and pull their kids off the court, pull their kids off the stage, pull their kids off of the scene, when these transformer weirdos wish to come and take over, eventually the powers that be will either give them their own space or make the rules fair and such that where a biological male has to compete against other biological males like men are supposed to do. Now, this is a nuanced message. It's a double-edged sword, because what's going on right now in our country where these little girls who have nothing to do with what their mothers and grandmothers did are suffering the consequences, it's almost funny seeing the tables turn and the outrage now that these delusional transformer boys or those who just think it's funny to stomp on girls' aspirations are doing so in the light of being woke, equality, equity, social justice, whatever you want to call it. We should not be accepting the unacceptable. We should not be celebrating that which should be condemned. Now, I'm not saying that we should condemn these people, but we should not celebrate mental disturbance, mental illness by ruining the futures of those who have worked so hard to do what they found passion in doing. Boys compete against boys. If you were born with a wiener, you're a boy. This madness needs to stop. But just for the sake of karmic retribution, it's almost funny seeing the chickens come home to roost. Should have stayed out of the Boy Scouts. Out.